Hey everybody, spoilers for Christopher Nolan's Insomnia. Hello and welcome to another episode of The Script Department. I'm John. I'm joined today by Asim to continue our Christopher Nolan retrospective. This week we'll be taking a trip to Nightmute, Alaska to discuss one of Nolan's lesser talked about films, but still equally brilliant ones, Insomnia. Before we get into that, be sure to check out our website, thescriptdepartment.net, for all the latest stuff that our global network of screenwriters get up to. Hit us up on social media. Links are in the description. We're on TikTok now as well. Subscribe to our podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Just search for The Script Department and you'll get everything that we do every day there. Okay, so Asim, Insomnia, released in 2002, based on a Swedish thriller of the same name, I believe. Mm-hmm. I mentioned that this is one of Christopher Nolan's lesser talked about films. I'm going to ask you why you think that is in a moment. Whenever I listen to film critics talk about Christopher Nolan, when I've been to a few Christopher Nolan special screenings, 35mm screenings and so on in the UK in the past, where they would show Nolan films and have big conversations about Nolan, and Insomnia never comes up in the conversation. I think people could be forgiven for forgetting that he has made this film. It's a film that I don't even think I've heard him talk about when he's being interviewed about his own works. More recently, let's say. And it's strange because you know what? It's Al Pacino, Robin Williams, Hilary Swank right there in that moment. She's just come off Boys Don't Cry, winning the Oscar for that. She's about to win the Oscar, I think, 2 years later for $1 Million Baby. Yes. There's a huge powerhouse cast here, right in that kind of moment. One would think this would be right up there on every Nolan list. Brilliantly made film. I really kind of wonderfully put together, on the level I would say with Seven and those kind of Fincher style investigative thrillers. But it does get forgotten about. Why do you think that is?
I think one of the reasons is if we go 2 years before that, before 2002, which is 2000, this is the release of Memento. So he started to have his own kind of style in terms of storytelling and also in terms of how he shoots his scenes and how he actually multiply his layers of the story. Then after that, we see The Batman Begins in 2005. So that gap between, a lot of people think, it's not similar to everything he's done before, but we can see that there is a similar thing to Inception in that perspective. Like if we see the detective storyline, the first one, then he got another one which is hiding his crime when he killed the officer, and there's also the Hilary Swank way of investigating who killed that, the FBI agent. So it's like an investigation inside an investigation inside an investigation. So it's like the dream inside a dream inside a dream with Inception. So I think that was like for him, it's like maybe like an experimental way of telling story inside a story inside a story. But at the same time, it's never been talked about because it doesn't have that Nolan known, let's say, style. If we see The Prestige, if we see Dunkirk, if we see Tenet, if we see all these films that he did before, even the trilogy and also Interstellar, there you can, like, from the first 5 minutes, this is a Nolan's movie. This one, it's actually more like Fincher's movie. It was more like that kind of style. I think that's why they didn't acquire it to be with the Nolan's kind of pack, as they say, and more it's never been talked about because it really doesn't show Nolan. It doesn't show his skills, or let's say his way of seeing things, although it's beautifully done and everything, and a very beautiful cast, and a lot of the time you think, oh, I wish I was in Alaska at that time, to see what they're seeing, but it's not that Nolan kind of vibe, I would say.
It's what you say. It's it's more like a Fincher film, yeah. And it's brilliantly made. But I think, you're right. We do expect Nolan films now to have, and even since maybe The Dark Knight, to have a very particular set of characteristics, even if it's just that kind of IMAX scope to it, that he's become famous for. Yeah, I think that's interesting. I also think it's worth mentioning that he didn't write this film, and his brother didn't write this film. This was written by Hilary Seitz, who also did, sorry, I'm just pulling up IMDb, Eagle Eye, and hasn't done a huge amount. Did The Unforgivable in 2021 with Netflix film with Sandra Bullock. Hasn't a massive kind of list of credits. Early Bird Special, Insomnia, Eagle Eye, Unforgivable, The Woman in Cabin 10, which is in pre-production, and Button Man, The Killing Game, which is also in pre-production. You've got, again, it doesn't have, and the other writers credited then are the ones from the original Swedish film. So you've got, this definitely doesn't have Nolan's fingerprints all over it. And, in the same way that I think Tarantino doesn't really talk about Jackie Brown all that much, because it wasn't 100% his idea. It was based on, it was a novel, it was an adaptation of a novel. Even though he very clearly put his signature to it. I think there's a similar thing happening here with this film. So let's get into the story itself. It's a really wonderful story it's a brilliantly kind of constructed thriller. I mean, I think one of the best constructed thrillers. And again, all credit to Nicola Frobenius and Eric Skolberg. I think I might be pronouncing their names wrong, for their original screenplay, because obviously this is very heavily based on that, and we should give credit where credit is due. But you've got Will Dormer, who's a LA detective. I'm imagining he's got that kind of level of fame that Al Pacino's character in Heat has. Like when I watch Insomnia, I almost imagine it's the guy from Heat coming up now to solve another case. He's that like brilliant detective. The problem with this version, though, with Will Dormer, is that he is he's a little bit corrupt. He's being investigated by Internal Affairs for maybe planting evidence and things like that to put people away. And he learns that his partner, Eckhart, is going to testify against him in order for immunity because he's guilty as well. And this kind of immediately creates a wedge between these two partners as they're going up to Alaska to solve this case of this dead teenager. And and there they meet Hilary Swank's character, Ellie Burr, who's this very young, idealistic newcomer to the force, newcomer to that kind of local sheriff's department or whatever. And she's read all of Pacino's books and stuff like that in order to kind of, when she was learning her craft. And so she's just meeting her hero. And as, the old expression goes, never meet your heroes. You'll only be disappointed, So it's this brilliant case. And then what happens is he accidentally kills his partner. He frames the actual killer for it, played by Robin Williams, brilliantly played by Robin Williams.
Oh, man.
Robin Williams' character, I think, is called Walter Finch. And he frames Finch for the murder. And then Burr is investigating Eckhart's murder. And Pacino is sabotaging the investigation there while trying to find Finch. Finch is proposing a deal with him. Let's frame the abusive ex-boyfriend for the murder of the girl, and I won't tell anybody that you murdered your partner or that you killed your partner, because no one's going to believe he did it by accident when he's going to testify against him. And it's just this wonderful coming together of different layers. And I'm just getting lost already thinking about it. You mentioned Inception, layers upon layers. This is exactly that. This is the murder mystery equivalent of Inception. It is brilliantly layered and nuanced. And again, credit where credit is due to the original writers and so on for this. But holy crap, like this is like the beginning of... Memento obviously played a big part in creating that very you're in for a roller coaster ride, you're in for a puzzle box movie with Nolan. But this is the
Yeah.
one I think that sets up that idea where he honed his craft in terms of the layers and the case within a case. If Inception is a dream within a dream, this is a case
Yes.
within a case within a case. It's
Exactly.
murder mystery. I've killed my partner and now trying to deflect away from that as somebody's investigating that murder. And now there's we have to sabotage the other investigation as well. So it's like three different kind of partnerships in play, all trying to find a villain, so to speak, and it's just, yeah, it's fantastic. What was your experience watching? I've rambled on enough now. You can tell I love this. What was your experience watching this film?
Actually, I saw when I was maybe 16 or 17, and when it came out. No, it was like 2002. So I was maybe just finished university. So I saw it at that time. It was breathtaking for me. It was like I'm previous, like a couple of years ago, before that, I actually saw Seven. So I love this. I think this is what make me want to write more about crime and that kind of genre and thriller, and having that kind of very complicated stories. But if you see it from from a zoom out, it's simple, but the more you get in and it actually becomes more complicated. I love the way they actually did with like Al Pacino's character was just on the top, equivalent to Robin Williams. So their character are so unique, and he can say, do you know the saying where they say, the enemy of my enemy is my friend? So if like that I think that's what happened between them to frame the boyfriend, and also he's taking the blame just so he can get out of it. Uh, uh, for the character of Hilary Swank, yeah, I love her character as a newbie. She is us as viewers. She is the one with the question. She is the one. She's doing the real detective without having any kind of previous knowledge about how to incriminate someone, what's real going on. She is the eyes of the viewer. So we are following Hillary as she is, and as she is a naive and getting all these questions. I love that part of her, because this is the question that we as the viewers are asking. I think what really got my attention more is the site and the settings. They're in Alaska. There's no, let's say, nighttime. It's all daylight, which is a bad thing. If you're like me, I always sleep. Everything is dark. So I didn't know what he was going through. As psychologically, like Al Pacino. Like if you go to on a vacation, like for a weekend, and you're going to spend 2 days, so it doesn't matter if there's some light in it. But if you're going to stay for unlimited time or unknown time, then this is where your mind tells, okay, I need to sleep very well, I need to have pitch black room. And this is what happened with him, with putting all these taping all these newspapers in. And I know what he's going through. If not having a good sleep, you will be just so bad in meeting everyone else.
Yeah.
So in terms of story, in terms of character, and also in terms of the style of the shooting was just amazingly done, in terms of the angles they took, in the fog scene where Al Pacino killed his Eckhart. That was just amazing how they actually moved the camera from one side to the other, like having that perspective, that POV from Al Pacino, then you're going to Eckhart, then you're going somewhere else, which is Robin Williams, and we don't know that. And he is the guy where we saw. So the way they actually moved that POV was so smart, and it's so smooth. You don't know who are you now watching, in which eyes you're watching actually right now. In general, it is just underrated kind of movie that a lot of the things that we are learning as screenwriter, we can learn from it, like in terms of storytelling, in terms of how to have a B story, a C story, and how to investigate a real proper crime scene. And it's not your typical style of CSI or CSI Miami. This is much more complicated. This is much more having a lot of history before that movie begins. So it's like we're living with them prior to that movie, prior to these events or these days. We are living with them, with their backstory, with their what kind of going on between these two characters, like Al Pacino and Eckhart and all that. So we know there is something going on. We know that there is some grudge. We know that they're not going to be working together as it should be, which is the best way to expose your characters.
Yeah, sure. You talked about how this is a great movie for screenwriters. It absolutely is. I think some of Nolan's films are great films, but they're not great. They're not. They don't make for great. There isn't as much you could learn from screenwriting as you might from filmmaking. Let's say,
Yes.
like for example, I'm a huge Jurassic Park fan. We'll be talking about Jurassic World Dominion later this week. I love Jurassic Park, but I don't hold the screenplay to be. I don't think it's anything really incredible. I think it's a very competent screenplay, but nothing kind of incredible. I do think that there are some great movies out there where the screenplays aren't one of the best things about them. It's a coming together of great talent that ultimately made it a great film, but it wasn't the vision of one person that made that. I do think Insomnia, and again, whether this is the original writers or whether this is the new writers have come in, or Nolan as well, whoever, I do think this is absolutely at its core a screenwriter's movie, and there's so much you can learn about it. One of the great things about this for me is location, and it's a great masterclass in using location to further your character's ordeal. There's no point in. I don't think people kind of think about this enough. We think about cool locations and we think about creating cool characters, but we never think about how the location is a puzzle piece that fits into the character and their world. When we think about Luke Skywalker, of course, I'm going to make a Star Wars reference. It's the kid desperate to get out into the universe and see what's out there. Well, you've got to make his world a boring place then. So let's make it a sand a sand dune. Or if you look at a film like Dune, you've got this wealthy family that live in this beautiful paradise, this beautiful kind of almost like beautiful fjords and everything like that, and green, lush landscape. Well, what would be the worst place for them to go? Pull them into the desert, and you've got this guy. He's from LA. He's from a place where he's in control. He controls the crime scenes. He's corrupt,
Yes.
He decides who gets, who's going to be arrested for this case, and all that. This is a guy who's been in control for too long of every corner and every aspect of his life. And he's being pulled away to a place where it's not going to let him get any rest. He's going to be out of his element. And this guy needs sleep. And he's going to go to the one place where he's not going to get any sleep. And that lack of sleep then, that sleep deprivation is going to make him bad at his job. And he's going to accidentally kill his partner. Like there's this wonderful symbiotic relationship between the environment and the plot points of the story. You could have set this movie you could have set this case in LA. This could have been a case where they go out to the Griffith Observatory at night, and he accidentally shoots his partner, thinking he's somebody else, and somebody witnesses it, and blah blah blah. You could easily have done all that, but it's not the same. You've got to put him in a place where he's going to be deprived, where he's going to be, his fuel gauge is constantly depleting, and it's really really well put together. Speaking of Dormer. Al Pacino's character, I would argue that he is one of the most well-developed characters in all of Nolan's films. He's a great detective, uses questionable methods to put people away. We know what he's doing is wrong, but also as an audience, it's hard not to be on his side either when he's talking about this, these horrific monsters in Los Angeles that that he knows did these crimes. I know this person killed this child, or I know that this person did this thing. If I don't put them away, they'll do it again. It's we tend to look at these kind of things in black and white almost in movies, even though in real life we'd never we wouldn't condone it. But in movies we can very easily forget our rules, and we can start to connect to these characters, and it is very hard not to connect to Dormer. It's very hard not to
Yes.
sympathize with Dormer's plight. Um, he leaves a bad taste in your mouth, but the alternative is much worse. Knowing that these people will get out if he does. So I don't know. I
Yeah.
think there's something brilliantly fascinating, brilliantly three-dimensional about this character that we don't often get. I mean, you look at Tenet.
Yeah.
The characters aren't as well developed in Tenet as they are in what was his third feature film.
Mhm.
What do you think about the characters in this?
For me, I think as a character development, he is, he's on the money. I'm with him. Like, you should do that, because if he didn't, then this guy will go and kill more than people. But now we can stop him and put him in jail forever. So yeah, I know as ethically it's not supposed to be like about that, but when you look from his point of view, not as on, but from his point of view, as being what 30 years as a detective in LA, so he's seen his share of blood, he's seen his share of agony. Family are getting destroyed from these kind of monsters. So the normal thing he will try his best, even if it's illegal, to put them behind bars, even if it actually reached to a point where I plant evidence, I will actually incriminate them in any possible way that doesn't actually make them walk another step, on the streets. So if we go legally, it's illegal, but and also ethically, but if we go mentally, is that the right thing? Yeah, that is right from his point of view as a
From
character.
his point of view,
And
yeah.
yeah, and we as audience, when we are in his shoes, we are feeling the same thing. We are feeling, yeah. If you went to a crime scene, you saw like a 7 or 6 year old kid killed from someone, and he killed 13 or 14 kids before that, what would you do? From his point of view, he would do anything in his power to get that, that guy into, not just, maybe he will kill him. It
Yeah,
will
yeah.
reach with him to kill him. But if we take it from an audience perspective, yeah, well,
Yeah, no,
for
yeah, yeah.
me,
There's a
I'm not really against him, but I'm also an abiding citizen, so I would love to see him doing the right thing, like putting the law into the right hands, and do it as it should be. But I know it will never happen. Even if he put the right thing, like he took all the prosecutions and all that, they will run away. They will be free because there's no evidence to hold them back. Uh, but
no, I
he's
think
an intriguing character. He's an intriguing
yeah.
character. I
And
like
and
him.
everything you're describing is the magic of cinema. Is you
Yeah.
can take a character like Hannibal Lecter, who is, he will eat rude people.
Yes.
There's a scene in Red Dragon where one of the I think musicians in the orchestra is playing his instrument incorrectly, and it's really irritating people in the audience, and it's irritating Hannibal. And the guy disappears then, and obviously Hannibal killed him and ate him, right? And you're like, well, of course that's horrific, but you're also in your mind thinking, well, you know, it's better for the orchestra, and it's you can have fun like that in movies, and but you can also go even darker where, you can take characters who are doing terrible things, and you can have them convince you that they're right. And there's something really profound when that happens in cinema, and you're like, oh my God, is this guy actually like burrowing into my brain and trying to rewrite my ideas of right and wrong?
Yeah.
Because that's what we do in cinema. We align ourselves with characters, and sometimes we can be deceived, and we can align ourselves with characters that we really would never associate with in real life. You can imagine yourself sitting down to dinner or sharing a seat on a train with Dormer and having a wonderfully fascinating conversation about his career. and being just completely lured in. And it's no coincidence, by the way, that this is Al Pacino. This is the guy from Heat. This is the guy
Yeah.
that we've seen in a bunch of other great, like legendary films. When he comes into that office, and Hilary Swank is kind of just, starstruck by him. We are starstruck when we see Al Pacino on screen.
Yeah.
I get giddy when I find out he's going to be in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, a Tarantino film. What? Like I love that, right? When he's going to be in that new Scorsese film, The Irishman or whatever, I'm like, wow, that's going to be amazing. They could have cast anybody, but they didn't. Nolan cast the legend that is Al Pacino, so that you will be a little bit starstruck as well.
Yes.
And you might not think, it might be hard for you to suddenly align yourself or to distance yourself from him. Likewise, Walter Finch, the Robin Williams character,
Exactly.
cast one of the most beloved actors of all time, the late, great Robin Williams. And, it's the guy from Dead Poets Society. It's the guy from Flubber. It's, the guy from Hook and all these other movies. Like our childhoods were built around Robin Williams. And now he's just killed a teenage girl. And he's this really snake-like character who's woven his way into the police department and managed to corrupt the police department because he's corrupted Dormer. It's brilliant casting, helping you to want to see more of these characters do their thing, but almost like feeling a bit sickened by it at the same time. I don't know. I think it's Nolan. I think this is the film where Nolan is really honing his craft and it's the warm-up session for the epicness that's going to be the Dark Knight trilogy. This is the guy who's going to save the Batman franchise.
Exactly.
This is the guy who's going to rewrite the rules of visual effects for years to come. This is the guy who's going to change the game for, like, if you're worried that, cinema is a dying thing, no. Nolan will save it, and among other filmmakers as well. But this is, I think, him warming up. Memento was him showing what he can do. In terms of like big, complex storytelling. But this is everything perfect coming together. The perfect storm of characters and actors and talent and everybody wanting to work with Nolan as well. You don't get that cast, just because you made one film. You get that because you made Memento. So mentioned Finch. Dormer has a great conversation with Finch. It's one of the standout scenes of the movie. It's the first time you really get to meet Robin Williams. I think it's the first time you see him in the film, actually, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
They meet on
the
ferry.
one in the ferry. The ferry.
They meet on the ferry. It's a wonderful setting. You're getting this kind of beautiful backdrop behind you, but you're also getting you're seeing, it's a tour of the poverty of the community, but also the beauty of the community. And they're trapped on this thing. They can't do anything, and it's like a neutral territory. And Dormer is basically trapped, more than Finch is. Finch is worried he's going to get caught, but he proposes a deal. Let's frame the abusive boyfriend, and I won't blackmail you anymore, because I know that, so if I go down, I'm going to bring you down with me, because I know you killed your partner. And then he starts asking Dormer for coaching tips. Like, he's like, okay, walk me through how to do an interrogation. Like, how do I survive an interrogation? What kind of questions am I going to get asked? And there's something really unsettling about that. Like, it kind of almost like he's helping the killer now. It's not like he's been caught by the killer. You're actually helping the killer now, giving him advice and things like that. And it's really kind of just, oh man, Dormer, don't do this. And then if things couldn't get worse, by the time that scene is over, Finch holds up a recorder, tape recorder, and shows him that he's just recorded the whole thing. And Al Pacino is like, oh man. And you as an audience are like, oh man, that's like, if this is just going from bad to worse, this is just really bad. It's one of those
Mm.
great scenes. Robin Williams proving he's one of the great actors, not just because he was a comedian. He is one of the great actors. And that is one of the great, you know, it's hard to watch Seven now because it's hard to just watch Kevin Spacey in a movie anymore.
Mm.
I say go watch this film because Robin Williams is the he will satisfy that. You know, if you're looking for that great murderer kind of character in a movie, this is
Yeah.
the guy. I mean, this is the template. I think. Wonderfully written character. So he was a crime writer. So you know he's got a little bit of he's thinking on those lines of how to kind of outsmart
Yeah.
the detectives and all that. He killed this woman that was a fan of his novels. He got too close to her. She rebuffed him, and then she made fun of him and ridiculed him, and he just he lost his temper and beat her to death, and that's how he does it. And when he's talking about that, again, you're sickened by him, and so for Dormer to then work with him, it's just it just is leaves
And this is the beauty of about Robin's William character, that he is already a writer. So the way he's asking Dormer is like a writer asking
yeah.
information to write his new novel. Like, this is what we do when if you want to go and know what kind of interrogation that happens, you know, if you're let's say in Vancouver, like I was in Vancouver, I went to the police station to ask about how things will go, like as a police procedures. So they were actually kind enough to help me with that. So it's actually like what we do. We go do our research. So he was doing his research, although he was also framing Dormer, having something to be on the safe side. If you want to catch me, I already got the recording. So it's like what would they say? This is the kryptonite for
Yeah.
Dormer.
And
So
and just on the subject of like writing and all that kind of stuff, the person who's going to ultimately outsmart Dormer is Hilary Swank's character Burr, and her name is Burr, isn't it? Yeah, Ellie Burr. Yeah, sorry. And she's learned everything from reading his books. And isn't it like he's written some books about the
yes, he's
craft?
very
Like,
known. Yeah,
yeah, like he's literally written the book for her to learn how to catch Dormer. Like
yeah,
she doesn't realize she's chasing Dormer, and
mhm,
Dormer's doing everything he can to try and like point her in the other direction.
exactly,
But everything that she's learned from him, and he is literally his own undoing. It's magnificent. Like Ellie Burr is a manifestation of all his greatest attributes.
exactly.
And
It's like
it's like she was born from his teachings, and then
exactly, yeah,
he gets sent to hell, which is not fire, it's ice. And he gets sent to hell to meet his, you know, to meet the person that will undo. And she doesn't come, you know, pointing guns at him. She doesn't come pointing her badge. She doesn't come mean spirited. She is the most innocent and most human of all of them.
yes,
And
exactly.
he has to try and corrupt her in order to save himself. And all the while, there is a part of you that wants him to succeed. And there's a part of you that wants her to succeed. And it is this angel and devil on your shoulder as
Yes,
you watch this film. And it is
exactly.
brilliant. I don't think we've, as enthusiastic as we have been about lots of Nolan films, I don't think either
Mhm.
of us have been this enthusiastic about one of his films before.
I think The Prestige was one of the
The
best top
Prestige,
things
yeah,
that we've
yeah,
done. Yeah,
that was on our list. But this is definitely up there, I think, in terms of
yeah, yeah,
how we
exactly.
feel about this.
No, I
Um,
like you know, Burr character Ellie. She is. Do you know when the student actually overcome his mentor? This is where the saying comes, you know, and I think she did everything she can to learn everything from her hero, let's say, or her idol, to catch him in the end. It's like she is the pure, a pure person, and also the good side of Dormer. Like if he wasn't corrupted, this is how he will be. You know, so I think that's one way to say like maybe she was like Dormer in his early stages before he get corrupted. So I think that's her, but she's much more innocent.
Yeah, and when Dormer does get wounded at the end, she offers to destroy the evidence, or she's about to destroy the evidence to protect his legacy. And he stops her and he's like, don't do it. Like, don't go down the road. Don't lose your way. And she doesn't. She puts the evidence back in the bag again. And it's a wonderful arc that Ellie Burr has as a character. You know, we're in an industry where we take characters from, small characters from movies, or we take, the rebooting stuff as TV shows and all that kind of stuff. It would be amazing, I think, to see a movie 20 years later, Ellie Burr as now the sheriff or something in that community, and having a sequel to Insomnia. You could do something really great. And, if this is a community where, half the year is spent in daylight and half the year is spent in darkness, then do the sequel in darkness.
Exactly. That would be great.
That'd be amazing, wouldn't it? Like, that'd be amazing. We need to work on that. We need to get to work on that. And then you do the whole thing. Like, can she avoid, like, or is it inevitable that she will become like Dormer? I think you could do so much great stuff with that. I think fantastic character, and again, brilliantly cast by Hilary. Brilliantly played by Hilary Swank, a character who. An actor, and a great lesson in good casting, because in the same way that we are starstruck by the great Al Pacino walking into town, in the same way she's starstruck by Dormer walking into town, I think she's also just, she's just come off the Oscar win. She's just kind of broken out as this big star. So, and she's at that, and her character is at that point as well in her career where she's just starting out, in terms of like people know who she is. People are getting to know who she is, and there's that real kind of interesting parallel between all the casting and the characters that they're playing. And I just thought really, brilliantly, expertly played by Hilary Swank, one of the great actors.
That actually reminds me of something. It's not related to this movie, but it's a really good way to incorporate it into this. When Ben Affleck was cast as the new Batman with Snyder, so to convince him, Snyder said, "Oh no, he's not young Batman. He's very old. He's like been fighting for 20 years. He's broke. He lost everything. He's grumpy, and he's more." I said, "Oh, okay, you're describing my life. I will take it." So that was like the line that got Ben Affleck to be the Batman that we really want to have, and he, to be honest, he did his best job. I mean, Batflick, as they say, is just amazing to see. In this time that we're living, we need this type of Batman, the one that actually doesn't buy by the rules. He want to break them. He's so different. He's so, and I like that way that how they actually cast him from his real life, and people don't know, but Ben Affleck actually have a Batcave in his house. For 10 years, he's living like this as the Batman. So he is being the symbol of Batman was just amazing to see how he is. So it's like what you say, casting her in that period of her life and her achievement, similar to her playing role in that film. So it's actually similar. That's beautiful casting. That's really good to have that as well.
And there is one other character that I want to talk about, and that is Maura Tierney's Rachel Clement. She's the hotel owner. And I think she is, and Maura Tierney is really kind of has had really amazing roles. She's in a new TV series with Jeff Daniels as well. At the moment, I think that's out, and she's one of these. Her character, Rachel Clement, is one of these characters that you could easily forget about when you're talking about the film, but I think is one of the most integral roles because she plays the confidant for Dormer. Dormer trusts her. He doesn't know her. He shouldn't trust her, but he trusts her. He tells her, he confides in her everything about his problems and things like that. And there's almost like, I think, if memory serves, the hint of a romantic relationship there. I might be reading too much into that, but there's definitely this kind of let me help you, and I love that idea. She's like the person behind the bar who you can always talk to. They've always got they'll always give you their ear. And in this instance, she's always coming into the rooms. She's, trying to fix the windows for him so he can sleep and all that kind of stuff. It's almost like there's a part of her that almost forgives him for the stuff he's done. It's almost like she's a priest and he's confessing his sins to her. And he needs someone to confess to. He needs some catharsis.
Yes.
He needs some sort of relief. And that's a big thing that happens in Nolan films. Having that character that our tormented hero can confide in, can get forgiveness for. We see it in Inception. We see it in the
Alfred.
Batman movies. Yeah. And I think we see it in The Prestige.
Tesla as the confidence.
Yeah. There's the people that will give you the advice. It's like the not a mentor character, but just that person that you really need to listen to, or you just really need to let it out, talk it out. And it's brilliant. He's not asking for the answers to his problem because there is no answer to the problem. It's like he's in hell. It's done. You're not coming back. It's over. It's just the only thing you can do now is just talk and share the problem, tell people. There's no solution to be had. And I think she plays a brilliant role in that because he can't tell Burr. And I think in any other movie, Burr would have been the B story. I think she is the B story. The A story is let's find Finch, but the B story is let's avoid being caught by Burr, but also want to help her, want to guide her, want to teach her. I think Rachel Clement provides another side that Burr can't provide.
Okay.
And so it's almost like in order for us to... He's such a complex character. We need two people to fill the B story slot. In most movies, one character would play that role. But in this, we need two characters, and it's Burr and it's Clement. And Clement isn't a cop. She's a civilian. And yeah, if there was somebody killed my child, for example, I would want, like she's embodying that kind of thing where she, forget the law. I would want, blah. And it's almost like he's hoping for some sort of forgiveness or for some sort of validation from a civilian, not a cop. I'm sick of talking to cops, I'm sick of people spouting the law. I need somebody who doesn't understand the law the way I do to tell me if I've done bad or not.
Yeah, exactly. And this is
such an important character in this film.
I think it's in some ways similar to what Sherlock actually have. What's her name? Watson is his friend, like Dr. Watson, but the lady that they are actually living with all the time, and she's always
the landlady.
The landlady.
I can't. Let me Google.
She is somewhere similar to Clement, I think, but not in the romantic side, like a side, but it's much more.
Mrs. Hudson.
Mrs. Hudson, yes. I think she is similar to Clement in terms of that kind of being a confident, also if we see Sherlock, he's always talking to her, but not like what actually Dorm is doing, but he's more giving her orders, and but she always know that no matter what he's saying, he will protect her, you know. And we saw that either if Robert Downey Jr. did Sherlock Holmes in the 1800s, or the new Sherlock Holmes in the 2000s or 2010 with Cumberbatch. So they're always that kind of confidant that they always go to, and they are civilians, as they say. They're not seeing things from a procedural eye view. They're more seeing it as humans, and they want to have the right thing. They want justice. In the old, whatever happened, we need justice.
And
so
it almost reinforces our. It's almost like allowing the audience to feel conflicted. You know,
exactly.
I think you know, obviously we don't condone any of the things he's done, obviously, but when you're watching the movie and they're making these compelling arguments, it's hard sometimes not to be pulled into that. It's hard not to be somewhat convinced sometimes that, yeah, okay, exactly. maybe that person in the orchestra needs to disappear and be eaten, you know, and I think Clement's character, I think, other characters like you've described can play that valuable role in allowing the audience to feel validated for their feelings in that movie. You know, I mean, great movies like this should be great therapy sessions for the audience. And this is such a great movie for asking yourself, where's your line? Where's your line in the sand? You know, and if anybody tells you, well, that's easy, they're lying, because this film will totally turn that on its head, you know?
Exactly.
Any final thoughts about the film?
I think it's a good material to look at and learn from it how to write real good thriller. And if you manage to find a script you can read, then just do it. It's really, really interesting to see how they manage to incorporate more than one story in the same thing. So it's a story inside a story inside a story. It's an investigation side of investigation side of investigation. But also with the B plot and the C plot, or the B story and the C stories, is always actually there to give it much more depth and also layers. So yeah, I think it's one of the most underrated Nolan movies, but it's actually one of his best jewels, to be honest with you, and a very good, a really crystal gem, as they say, to watch and learn from.
Totally agreed, and a good place to leave it there, I think. Thanks very much for listening, guys. Don't forget, we got a whole load of other Nolan-related videos up on our channel and podcast. Just search for The Script Department. Also, do give us a follow on social media. We'll be back next week with another Nolan-related project. Until then, thanks for listening.